Hey everybody, we are on the ground here at Glacier Park Airport outside of Kalispell, Montana. We're going to move the Saratoga today to Great Falls, Montana, about an hour flight over the top of the Rockies. I'm not going to do this on Pilot Edge or anything, I'm just going to fly to enjoy the view. And we're running xEnviro real world weather. We'll be flying over homemade orthographic scenery. So without any further ado, we will get things going here. Let us get the weather, however. 132625. My iPad is on low juice, so I'm using my phone here with ForeFlight.
Glacier Park International Information Juliet. 1700 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility more than 10. Information Juliet. 7.
Okay, that's all great. And the way we're going to get there, we're going to fly the outbound 93-degree radial out of Kalispell, which will take us to Great Falls. So that is 113.2. Ident that real quick, and 93 degrees. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, we've done our run up, fuel pump on, landing line on, strobes on. Let's go. Okay, prop full, mixture rich, at least rich for the altitude. I forgot how much fun this is to fly in the sim. Airspeed's alive, rotation speed. Positive rate of climb, gear up. All right. Our VY is 91 knots in this airplane, so we can climb a bit more aggressively than we're climbing. Make our downwind turn, or crosswind turn, I mean. Our other turn down to the downwind leg. Okay. Get out of the pattern here, and we'll turn to intercept that radial. We'll fly a heading of about probably 70 degrees until we do. In fact, we could just fly due east. But we're going to get some altitude here first. We got to get up to a good, oh, I'd say 10,000 feet before we start heading over those mountains. We're sort of flying the instrument departure out of here, which is fly down to the VOR, get up to an altitude, and then head east. In fact, if we look at the departure procedure, Scott 2 says fly the Kalispell radial and then fly 30 miles south to the Scott intersection until you are at 12,000 feet. That's sort of what we're doing. Take us south over Flathead Lake. Hazy today. Fuel pump off. Mountains are coming up on the side, that's cool. There's our radial. Let's follow it. Ortho scenery looks great. We must be right on top of the VOR because I caught that radial in a second. Compared to the Cessna I'm usually flying, and compared to the Piper Warrior I'm usually flying, in the sim this thing feels like a rocket ship. We'll go up to 11.5. So we're cruising along. We're going to be right about 11.5, and we're getting on the right heading, and the right radial. We've got the mountains underneath us. There's nothing to do now but have fun. Got a little bit of a tailwind on us, which is good. About 9 knots. Between that, the altitude, and our power, we're now cruising along at a ground speed of 224 on an indicator. It's pretty high. We need to back off a little bit, take our power down. I haven't been able to get a manifold pressure that works well yet with the Saratoga in X-Plane in terms of an FIP gauge. I'm working on it, but I have to just kind of judge by my fuel flow and my engine temperature and that kind of stuff. I'll be glad when the next version of SPAD Next comes out and it accommodates all the different data translations we need to make for the FIPs to work, for Tom Suey's FIPs in particular. There we go. And we're flying over mountains. We've got a lake over there to our left. That's Hungry Horse Reservoir. We're going to be crossing over it. Got a little turbulence here in the sim. And these are the Great Bear Wilderness that we're going to be flying over. A lot of mountains out there. Might as well tune in the next VOR. Great Falls is 115.1. We're going to be coming into that on the 277 radial. 277 from radial. Should be pretty close to the radial that we are on. 75. 76, 277. Okay, so now when we get out of range of this, we should be able to pick up that, although if we're getting it from here, we shouldn't have to worry about it. Now, we want to be flying the radial of 93 degrees, but we have a crosswind, so we are actually flying a heading that's going to be closer to maybe 100. We have to fly a little right of the radial to find the right ground route, the right ground track. So our heading is going to be one thing and our course is going to be another because of the wind. We're going to fly a heading of about 100 to fly a course of about 93, if that makes sense. It's pretty awesome looking mountains around here. In the airplane. It's too much. There we go. And again, no autopilot, we're just gonna hand fly it. New addition to the sim, this personal flight display. Tom Tsui from FSX Times just released that. It's awesome. There are multiple variations. One for turboprops, one for jets, one that's just sort of anonymous. There's one for the Cessna 182, one for the 172. It's really, really slick. And so I've got it set up over there for the person in the right-hand seat. If you have watched the I-4 rating that I just put up, you saw that I got some pretty crappy frames going into Santa Monica. Did a lot of playing around on the sim to try to figure out what was the source of that, and some of it is, I thought maybe it was the Ortho 4XP. I enabled and I disabled it, and there was no real difference. Some of it I thought was maybe the World to XP America. I thought that maybe it was the mesh was the problem, so I enabled that, disabled it, and didn't really have a difference. And then some of it I was worried that maybe it was the models that it uses, World to XP America. So I enabled and disabled them. No difference. I noticed that the mesh seemed to load fine even when I turned off the world models, so I did that because I'm not a fan of the European looking models in World to XP. In America at least, they look great in Europe. So the default X-plane autogen I thought looked better. And then the only thing I could figure out was it was the ortho scenery. So I loaded up in Santa Monica without the underlying ortho scenery, and my frames were about 6 to 10 frames higher, which is, you know, big. That's 20 to 30%, maybe more, sitting on the ramp there. So that is ortho scenery that was gifted to me, and I can just think that it's a resolution too high. I've been flying resolution 16. I know everybody makes 17, but I find 16 looks great at my altitudes. It looks plenty realistic, especially here, you know, looking at, I can see the individual pixels on this screen, so it's not like I'm operating in a 4K world. So it looks fine to me, and what I'm actually going to try to do is reburn that scenery and see if it's any better. Because I just think it's probably overloading it, and I'm probably GPU constrained in that environment between all the autogen, the dense network of the mesh, and then having zoom level 17 underneath. Now what I've done though with like this scenery is it's 16, but anywhere within 3 miles of an airport it burns 18. So that as I'm coming into land, things look sharp, realistic. So that's what I'll probably do. So I'm probably going to dump that scenery and reburn it and see if that helps me at all. Now I can just turn, oops, there's a little bit of a jump there by xEnviro. I can just reburn it, or I could just turn all the autogen down almost all the way if I wanted, and I'm sure it would be fine. But I like to have autogen. You know, you like to see buildings, so that's my plan. xEnviro has been sort of flipping on and off here. What I'm expecting or thinking is that it is probably right in between MEDARs, so it's probably got a little confused. Okay, we are, let's switch over here now. Let's go to 110 or 115.0 and start tracking that in. 115.10. Yep. Now that's on the DME. We'll just fly direct. Well, we still want to track the right radial. So now it's going to be the 277 in. So now I gotta spin this thing all the way around. Options if you were to have a problem here from an airport standpoint. 0 good options. If you have a problem here with your motor, you're probably hoping all your affairs are in order. There might be a river down there you could try for. There are a couple of little private strips along the way. This is cool. The MEDAR for Great Falls was showing clear skies, and it looks like we're flying into clear skies out of the clouds. That's cool. I like it when that stuff is accurate. We're going to fly in on 277. Okay, let's go find that. 7, 9. We're right on it. Okay, well that's good. All right, so we've flown out of the clouds. I can see, you can't see because of where the camera sits, but I can see the clouds disappearing behind us there. And now we're making our way. We are 76 miles out of Great Falls. So we're right over the top of the wilderness. Pentagon Mountain, Rocky Mountain, guard stations down in these parts. Awesome. Never been to this part of the world. Glacier National Park and its areas. I'd love to go there. big valley coming up here. I think that puts us right about there. Let's see, we are 73 nautical miles out of Great Falls. Yep. Yeah, so we're gonna come over the mountains here about another 20 miles, and then we will be entering the plains. We'll be east of the Rockies. Cool glaciated peaks out there. Ortho XP has done a good job of putting the little lakes in. Yeah, we now have a crosswind of 5 knots, coming from 169. Minutes. That'll be good. It means I'll be able to get to the bus stop. Gotta pick my boy up. Landing lights are still on. Let's turn those off. I really like the point-to-point series. It's kind of fun moving this one airplane around. You know, I like doing it. And I thought I was going to head over to the west coast and stay in the Pilot Edge, more towered area. And I just decided not to. I wanted to go east, get to the Great Plains, see what that's about, then maybe work our way down to Denver, then maybe over to Aspen, Vail. I've been doing a lot of mountain flying, so might as well stick with it. Okay, we're coming to the end of the Rockies. Frame rates look good. They were running about 30 to 40 when I was on the ground. I'm sure they're probably higher here. Now that the clouds are gone, they're probably really good. In fact, I'll take a second to check. Okay, just checked. We're running about 40 frames a second. If I knock the anti-aliasing up a notch, it goes down to 35 or 30. Things look great. No complaints. Just gonna stick with it. Okay, we've been up here high enough, long enough. I'm eager to start getting down, so as soon as we're over these last peaks, as soon as I get back on my radial, because we were distracted. Oh, big mistake. Reverse sensing. At least now I know that I'm doing it. We want to be flying 277 on the tail. I always want the heading that you're going to fly up top. I haven't made that mistake in a while. Good thing I recognized it. I would have kept chasing that needle all over the place. In fact, I think the last time I made it was on one of these flights. I always want the heading that you're going to be flying up top. So if you want to fly the 277 outbound, you can just put 277 down here. That's called putting it on the tail. So 270, 275, 76, 77. Our needle is this way. Okay, there's the highway. That's good. Now we can get down to a more reasonable altitude. Great Falls Airport, let's get the ATIS 126.6. Or so I thought. Okay, must not be consistent in the database, so we'll just look at it. The ATIS they're saying is visibility 10, sky clear, temperature 17.2, 2.2, altimeter 2982. Density altitude 4,900 feet. It's going to take longer to land the plane. Let's be ready for that. Winds 190 at 18. Really? Okay, so if that's the case, we want to come in on probably 2-1. Yep, we'll come in on 2-1. So if we're going to come in on 2-1, and it looks like the pattern is standard pattern, so we'll enter on the left downwind for 2-1 going into Great Falls. That wind's really moving us. We're not coming to our needle. Come over a little more aggressively. There we go. And again, we're going to go down to eventually a pattern altitude of 4,800, but we'll go down to 7,500 feet for now.
Great Falls INTL.
There we go.
Information Juliet. 1800 Zulu weather. Wind 160 at 9. Visibility more than 10. Sky clear. Temperature 12. Dew point -20. Altimeter 2977. Arriving runway 03. Departing runway 03.
2977 in the sim.
Contact you have Juliet.
We'll listen to that again.
Great Falls INTL information Juliet. 1800 Zulu weather. Wind 180 at 17.
180 at 17.
10. Sky clear. Temperature.
Yeah, we'll still come in on 2-1.
Dew point -17. Altimeter 2979.
2979.
Arriving runway 03. Departing runway 03.
Okay. We'll check it again when we get closer. I think xEnviro reports the altimeter for where you are, not for the altimeter of the place you're checking, but I read that online. Don't know if that's accurate or not, but I like to check data as we get closer anyway. All right, coming down to 7,500 feet. That's a good eastern directional VFR altitude. And we are over the plains, and things look different now. That's probably Freeze Out Lake down there. 118.7 is that control tower. Just so we're going by the book. And again, the CTAF was, the ATIS was 126.6, okay. And if we were doing this real world, we would probably have guard over here, 121.5. Which I would have done when we took off. Okay, so now we're at 7,500 feet. We're gonna have to get down to 5,500 feet, 3,000 feet. 14, we're still 40 miles out. We're in good shape. So we're gonna wanna lose 3,000 feet, 500 feet a minute. It's gonna take us 6 minutes. 6 minutes at 180 knots. It's gonna be 18 miles. Well, it's definitely not the Rockies anymore, is it? I can still see them out there out the right window. A couple stutters there. I would imagine those are weather induced. Everybody's been waiting for the next release of xEnviro. Add me to that list. It's time for it to be updated. starting to come up on farmland. I had an awful lot of positive comments about the i3 failure video that I put up. Interestingly, it also had the most thumbs down. I don't show the thumbs up, thumbs down, just because I don't really think that is meaningful to me. But I had a couple thumbs down on that one, and that's fine. But I was curious about that, maybe just because I didn't finish the video. But people were, you know, very thoughtful. I appreciated the commentary. You know, people thought it was nice that I posted a failure. I'm happy to. I mean, I'm trying to share my experiences with the sim, and as I learn my own flight training, and it seems to me that if you fail, that's probably something you should post. It wasn't a big deal. You know, it is just a simulation. Somebody said, good thing you did that in your basement or in the sim and not at 4,000 feet in IMC. Couldn't agree more about that. So the IFR stuff on Pilot Edge has been good. I mean, I'm still working on my PPL, but I plan to try to go for my I rating when I'm done. And what's great about it is how much it exercises your flying brain. And for me, you know, I'm not flying it with a GPS. So I can't just plot in, I'm not just plotting in the waypoints and letting the airplane fly itself on autopilot. And, you know, setting to heading bug and to the right heading and doing all the rest. I'm flying it. And at some point that's going to be too much for some of those procedures, and I'm going to need to probably make it happen on GPS. Or at least with autopilot, which is what I would probably do in the real world, I would assume, if I was interested in being as safe as possible. But in the meantime, it's fun flying it the way I'm flying it, and it keeps me focused, you know, changing VORs and radials, radio frequencies, all that kind of stuff. There's a ton to learn in terms of the charts, so that's been helpful also, learning how to read the plates. Let's switch over to the other tank. We're more than halfway. Should have turned the fuel pump on when we did that, but okay, everything's running, that's good. 7,500 feet. We're now 32 miles out. About 10 minutes. Cool, we're over the fields now, farmland. There's a little airstrip right down there. Let's see what that is. I would imagine that is probably, what are we, 25 nautical miles out? That is probably Fairfield. Right by the lake. Yep, I believe so. Okay, good. From here we could follow the highway in if we wanted. Okay, so what was our math? 3,000 feet, 500 feet a minute? Means 6 minutes. 6 minutes at 180 knots. Well, now 150 knots, but we'll plan 180 knots just to be sure. That's going to be about, yeah, 15 miles out. We'll start our final descent, so we're getting close to that. Let's double check the weather again.
Great Falls INTL information, Juliet. 1800 Zulu weather. Wind 180 at 17, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 15, dew point -16. Altimeter 2980. Arriving runway 03, departing runway 03. Advise on initial contact.
All right. Yep, and this highway pretty much takes us the rest of the way. I don't know if you guys can see this highway right in front of us here. I have to say, being able to fly over orthographic scenery and have it place AutoGen on top of it may be the killer app for me about X-Plane. Flight models are great. The visuals, the way it handles lighting are all great. But the ability to have real world imagery beneath you with cars and roads and buildings and trees on top of it is just changes the game from the immersion level for me. Alright, I have no idea what this airport looks like. It's a big one though. If I remember correctly, it's on the north side of town. No, it's on the west side of town with two highways making a big bow around it. Okay, and this is going to bring us in if we are right on the radial, and we're a little north of it. If we're right on the radial, it's going to bring us in just a little bit south of the airport. In fact, it's going to put us on a perfect trajectory to make the 45 degree into 2-1. 2-1, right? 2-1, correct? 2-1. Okay, there we go. Rejoining our radial. I'm getting some interruptions and signals from the sim. Might be the network here. Hard to know. All right. We're about 16 miles out. We should start that little descent now. Okay, we are about 4 minutes out, so let's start getting ready. Fuel pump on. Mixture rich, prop to full. Continuing our descent. We would have called and told them that we're coming in on the 45 for 2-1. We're looking for the airport. Got a highway down there. Miles out. Okay, so I know what that highway was. That's good. The highway, if we follow it, actually connects us to the highway that leads to the airport, but we're going to keep flying our general direction toward Great Falls. And let's just confirm our maps have gone dead. From our pattern altitude, I believe it was 4,400. Yep, 4,500 feet. Okay. Let's get weather one more time.
Great Falls INTL information kilo. 1800 Zulu weather. Wind 170 at 22. Visibility more than 10. Sky clear. Temperature 16. Dew point -15. Altimeter 2977. Arriving runway 03. Departing runway 03.
Setting your heading bug to 2-1 so we can know the direction of the runway. We're on our radial. Coming down to 6,000 feet. We're looking for an airport. See the town of Great Falls coming in. I can feel that wind coming in also. Some high cirrus clouds up there in the distance. Okay. We're going to hold it about 5,800 feet till we've got the airport required. Letting the airplane slow down a little bit, bringing our power down. We've got a direct crosswind here. About 13, 14 knots right now. There's the river. Airport should be right in front of us. In fact, I think it is right in front of us. Well, maybe not. Let's see. The river comes up to our side. We fly along the river for a little bit. Yeah, the river, it's going to be right in front of us. So we just got to keep our eyes open. There's the road. Find airports in X-plane can be hard to see. It's right in front of us. Yep. We ended up right where we're supposed to be. How about that? All right. So we'd call and we'd say, Great Falls, Saratoga 15 Juliet Golf is 3 miles west of the field, entering on the 45 for left downwind into 2-1. Actually, that would be the right downwind. So if we want to make the left downwind, we're going to enter on the crosswind, aren't we? So we'd say Great Falls, Saratoga 15 Juliet Golf is entering on the crosswind for 2-1. Great Falls. Yep, airport was right in front of us. Good. Boy, we went right to it. I'm always happy when my navigation does what it's supposed to do. Okay, we've got a direct crosswind here of about 15 knots. So we have to expect to fly a little bit wider on this crosswind right here. Let's come down to 4,500 feet. Let the airplane slow. And we got to fly a little further out because it's going to push us. To the northeast. Yep. There's a good crosswind. We'll lose our altitude here. There's our runway. We should be about 100 knots on the downwind leg, which we're setting up for. Now we're going to have a fast downwind leg because that tailwind is going to be behind us. All right, let's turn on to our downwind. Let her keep coming down to 4,500 feet. All right. Okay, we are on the downwind. Pretty good on speed. 4,600 feet, which is where we want to be for the pattern altitude. It's on a little plateau, so we got to be ready for that. We're moving. Moving pretty good here. Ground speed of 130 knots, on indicated of 110. A little more power. Okay, we're coming up. Okay, we are at our touchdown point. Gear is down. Gas to fullest tank, undercarriage mixture full prop. Landing lights, fuel pumps on. We are good for first notch flaps. We're over the town of Great Falls. Turn on to base leg. Spot speed about 90. Now that crosswind is really pushing us. Let's take a peek. Next notch, turn straight to it. I still have to fly a little bit of a wider downwind leg in this airplane. That crosswind has taken us far sideways, that's okay. Speed is good. Next flaps, we'll just turn on to the numbers here. Keep pitching the airplane. Gears down, 3 in the green. Gonna have to get a little power here. There we go. Started to sink. It's not a linear throttle, I've noticed, on this airplane. And let's kick it sideways with the rudder and get that wing down. Well, that was not the world's most beautiful crosswind landing, but given that it was 18 knots, give or take, I'll take it. Okay, welcome to Great Falls. It's really making me look at the windsock. Oops, the windsock is sticking straight out. Okay, well, that tells you. And we need to drive away from that crosswind with our ailerons. Another Delta airplane. What are all these 767s doing in these little Montana? It's hard to steer the airplane with this crosswind, I can tell you that. Having your ailerons pointed in the correct direction, you drive away from a crosswind, so I put my wind side aileron down. That means I point the yoke this way. That makes it easier because it reduces the lift of that wing. This is a challenge. Yeah, so one thing I've noticed on this Saratoga is that the throttle retards, and then at some point it comes way off the power curve, and you just sort of all of a sudden start to sink like a rock. Or, you know, if you remember the first couple of flights, I stalled the airplane once or twice on the ground. Okay, let's clean up, flaps up, trim back to neutral, landing lights off, fuel pump off, strobes off. Okay, let's take the Saratoga over to these hangars. Okay, so that's the next in the point-to-point series, and I sure am liking them. This one was just chill. I didn't worry too much about radio work and the rest. Good scenery, and xEnviro just popped a bunch of clouds out. Again, I think that's something in how it reads the MEDARs. Looking forward to the next update there. See, so like here, I'm going too fast in the taxi, but if I come off the power too much, the motor will quit. So it's a weird thing. I gotta find out where that position is. It looks like it's right about halfway, and it starts to come up. Okay, neither here nor there for you guys. So here we are. Where am I gonna go next? Probably south. Probably south. And go find some interesting terrain. Ooh, let's taxi into the hangar. That sounds cool. And we will see what is waiting for us when we do that. And again, my goal is to get down to the Front Range at some point and start seeing how things look down there, and get back on air traffic control with Pilot Edge as we do. All right, this is good. Well, I want to shoot pictures. I always shoot pictures of it, so I guess we should taxi out of this and then take a couple screen caps. All right, neither here nor there. If you have questions about the basement simulator, I would love to answer them for you. You can learn more about it at www.ontheglideslope.net. See, like now it won't. There we go. Differential braking. Come on, guys. There we go. www.ontheglideslope.net, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. And you can get the email address there for me. And there's all kinds of stuff about the sim, plans, information on the computer, PC setup, all the rest. So that's what we have. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you on the next flight of On the Glide Slope.